Alright y'all, welcome back to the Commodore Arms channel. Okay, so today we're doing a firearm review. Now I gotta say, I am not original reviewing the Mark 23. I'm definitely not the first. I'm definitely not going to be the last reviewing this pistol. But I gotta say, it is just so iconic. And for me as like a firearm collector, I guess you can kind of say, or just an enthusiast, this is by far one of the most fun pistols I've ever shot, and certainly one of the most fun that I've actually owned. Now, as far as like my hype, my personal hype with the Mark 23, everybody's kind of got their own sort of reason why they like the Mark 23, whether it be the history, whether it be kind of like its association with SOCOM. Probably the most prevalent is going to be its appearance in Metal Gear Solid. But I gotta say, for me specifically, I don't really know why I got so hooked on the Mark 23. Now, when I was a kid, probably when I was maybe 13 or 14, I had an airsoft Mark 23. I don't know why I wanted to get the Mark 23 specifically. I was kind of into HK guns in general, but I wanted to get a Mark 23 and I did. And I'll put some cringy clips of me using that in some of my older videos from like 2008.
Oh shit, look out! Tango down.
But I have always liked the Mark 23 for whatever reason. I gotta say, I've never even played Metal Gear Solid. I've played Super Smash Bros. And played as Solid Snake. But yeah, I don't really have any background like that as far as why I would like the Mark 23. And just in general, when it comes to like firearms history, it is kind of cool as far as like its development and background. But I mean, just for me, it's such a massive pistol. It doesn't really fit any specific role nowadays. But being designed as like an offensive pistol is pretty cool for this to be like your primary weapon system. Of course, with SOCOM, they had the, I think it was like the Knight's Armament suppressor with it, as well as the laser aiming module, the LAM. So it was kind of like its own package to be this kind of primary offensive weapon system. But I gotta say, it's so cool. I've always wanted one. Having an airsoft one kind of just hyped that up even more, to the point to where I finally purchased the Mark 23. I was kind of torn between this and a few other pistols, but I sent it and I don't regret that ever. Getting the Mark 23, I think at the time was probably about $2,300, so pretty expensive for a pistol, especially one that, again, doesn't really fit any specific niche as far as like competition shooting or what have you. It was definitely worth it for sure. To the point where I went and got an airsoft Mark 23. So this is just another kind of spring-powered Tokyo Marui airsoft gun. So yeah, I mean, they're pretty similar, to be honest, as far as like, you know, the dimensions and whatnots. But yeah, I was having so much fun with the real pistol that I ended up getting another airsoft gun just to kind of live the nostalgia, I guess, just from when I had an airsoft one back in the day. But owning the Mark 23, it's been such a blast. Now, I did order a suppressor. I ordered an AAC suppressor for this. So when that comes, I mean, you'll probably know. I'll probably post a picture of it, but at the same time, I'll definitely have to start doing some shorts with that, and I will definitely have to get a Solid Snake costume, even though I never played the game. Maybe I should play the game to kind of understand some of the inside jokes or something. But yeah, owning this pistol, again, it doesn't fit any specific role, which I kind of like. It's just a fun gun with how massive this thing actually is. I have pretty freaking big hands, and this thing is still pretty freaking beefy. I mean, my hands are big enough to the point where I still put like one of the Hogue sleeves on it, and it feels really, really nice. But again, just like being such an old pistol, I think it was developed either in the I think it was like the 1990s, like earlier 1990s. For being like such an old pistol, it still feels very modern in a lot of weird ways. It's got a lot going on with it for sure, kind of less than what you'd see nowadays. And that's just kind of with its development and, you know, who the customer base was going to be and why they were requesting certain things. So as far as like the sights, there's really nothing fancy about the sights. They don't glow. You know, you can change them out with other sights, but I want to keep pretty much the entire pistol stock because, I mean, it's just very, very cool by itself. And if you change too much, then it kind of stops being a Mark 23, if that makes sense. So yeah, there's nothing too special about the sights. They don't have any tritium. They're not like any combat sights. They just have the 3 dots. You know, that worked kind of back in the day. It still works now on the Mark 23. It's got its threaded barrel, of course. You can see here it's got the thread protector. So whenever that suppressor does come in, you can obviously easily mount that. And then it's got the hole in the front. If you do get like the original laser aiming module, or if you get like a reproduction, you can mount that. You can even get like an airsoft one and it'll mount onto that. And then you have the decocker on the side here, the safety lever, and then you have the cool HK paddle magazine release. And then of course you have the disassembly lever over here / slide release. But I gotta say, for being such an old gun, it's so smooth. I mean, it's such a big gun, so like when you're actually shooting it, it's gonna be very smooth. There's not gonna be a whole lot of recoil. There's not gonna be like really a whole lot of muzzle flip. So you can shoot this thing pretty quick, pretty accurately, and pretty freaking far, because this thing in general is just stupid accurate. Like once you kind of figure out where your hold is supposed to be, if that makes sense, depending on like whatever range you're at, just because of, you know, ballistics and what have you, then you can get an amazing grouping. You can be hitting steel out to 40 yards very, very easily. I have a few videos of me shooting like small steel plates at about 40 yards, me shooting out to about 50, 60 yards with the Mark 23 and being very successful with that. And then of course I have a lot of drills where I'm transitioning, because you can get a holster for this big thing. I got a Safariland holster and it's pretty absurd actually, but it is a lot of fun to like have the MP5 Mark 23 combo, you know, doing the crazy transition, because obviously with a gun this big, it's a pretty wacky transition trying to pull this huge gun out of the holster. It's kind of like trying to draw a sword upwards, if that makes sense. But yeah, once you get a hang of it, it is a lot of fun. And as far as like that quick combat shooting, it's very easy to do with this. And with it being a big gun, like as far as sighting in, you can get some very accurate shots just because of, you know, the spacing between the front and rear sights. And at the same time, again, there's really not a whole lot of muzzle flip, so follow-on shots are very easy. Now, this is a 45 caliber handgun, so 45, pretty big round. The magazine itself is pretty freaking big. I mean, like this is, ooh, that probably didn't sound too good, but like this is my neck and the magazine. So yeah, it's a pretty chunky magazine, but it does fit 12 rounds. So take that big chungus magazine, seats in obviously very nicely with the paddle release. I mean, it kicks those magazines out. I mean, it's an HK firearm, so you can expect everything to be very, very smooth. But yeah, as far as like reloads and everything, all of that is super smooth. Combat shooting, this thing is, it's just a blast. Now, I gotta say again, I do have big hands and I have some pretty gnarly thumbs with like my hitchhiker's thumbs. So as far as hitting the slide lever, I did have to kind of get used to it. Hitting the paddle release is pretty easy. I just use my middle finger for that and I don't mess up my grip too much. But yeah, with the slide release, once I got used to it, it was pretty easy. So once that slide is back, I mean, it just looks even more massive. But yeah, once that slide is back, you get the magazine, insert it, and then you can release it pretty easily. It kind of had to get broken in to like actually make it that easy to release it. But I mean, I've probably shot maybe 500 rounds through it so far, and it's pretty freaking smooth now. And again, you do have that decocker there, which is kind of like a quiet decocker, kind of part of the development. So that's kind of cool to do that as well. It's just a lot of fun. Like this entire thing is like an adult fidget toy, if that makes sense, with all the stuff that's on it. That's a bad way of describing it. But yeah, like the external hammer, you got the decocker, you got the safety, which is just, again, everything is just kind of fun to mess with. I mean, that's an ambidextrous safety. And then again, you got that slide release. So yeah, with this gun, when I got it, it was just on my desk and I was just messing with it for like 4 days straight, just because it is just so fun to mess with and just to kind of have around and handle. But as far as like the racking, it just feels so satisfying. It feels so mean, and just, again, it's such a big gun. So like everything sounds like more bassier and then just chunkier, kind of like a 50 cal when you hear that thing cycling and whatnot. So with that magazine insertion, the magazine's going out, racking the weapon, locking it back, again, kind of releasing that slide, everything just feels so satisfying. And when you actually shoot, the trigger is also very, very nice. I think they called it like a match grade trigger. Nowadays standard, it's really not like that match, to be honest, but it is a nice trigger regardless when you're talking about that single action pull. Even with the double action pull, it's a little heavy, but it's pretty smooth. So the sights aren't really moving with that heavy double action pull. But yeah, I gotta say, it is accurate, it is fun, it looks cool. Like, a lot of people know the Mark 23. It draws a lot of attention for sure. It's going to be stupid reliable, obviously being a SOCOM firearm. And again, just being set up as like an offensive weapon, it's kind of cool to think of this thing being used as like a primary. Now, it doesn't have kind of like the normal bells and whistles nowadays. It's got a little bit more happening with the slide. It doesn't necessarily have like, you know, the Picatinny rail, so you do have to get an adapter if you want to put on most accessories, or you just need to get ones that are specifically made for this system. And then again, like talking about other things as far as like the sights, there's really not a whole lot of modern things you might find on here. But again, for what it was, for how old of a pistol it is, it still stacks up very well. And with this thing stacked up with my other firearms, I feel very comfortable using this thing for a variety of applications. Maybe not where I'm gonna be kind of like moving around too much or having this as like my secondary, because it is pretty heavy, especially when it's fully loaded. It's pretty big. The holster itself is big and kind of heavy. So if I'm going to be doing anything like for an extended period of time, or if I'm having to move around kind of quick, or if I just want to be a little bit more lightweight, I might not take this thing, obviously. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's great for competition shooting. It's great for plinking. It looks cool, obviously, for me as a YouTuber. It's good to have something like this for videos, just because, again, it is so iconic. A lot of people know it. And I mean, there's a lot of videos on the Mark 23. And I know when I ordered mine, even before I ordered mine, I was looking at pretty much every video I could find on YouTube with the Mark 23, just because it's such a cool, such an iconic pistol. Yeah, honestly, I can talk all day about how fun this pistol is. Now, if you're on the fence with getting a Mark 23, again, depending on your uses, if you're trying to use it for competition, there's probably better options out there. Something you can mount a red dot sight to. I mean, you can get slide cuts in this, and, you know, serrations and stuff, and Cerakote it if you want. But yeah, it's a Mark 23, so you kind of, people usually get a Mark 23 to kind of keep it as a Mark 23 in the traditional sense. But, you know, if you want to do that, you can. But there are definitely going to be some cheaper options out there, especially this thing. It's kind of fluctuated a lot over the last few years, because I've always kind of considered getting one. But yeah, now it's pretty up there as far as the price. But yeah, if you're trying to get this for certain specific uses, maybe compare it with other things. But if you like the Mark 23 and you want a Mark 23, then definitely go and get a Mark 23, because it's just a lot of fun. And again, I'm super hyped for that suppressor, so whenever that comes in, I'm gonna be doing some videos with this. And it's already one of my favorite, if not my favorite, pistols to shoot right now. But yeah, with the suppressor, it's gonna be so much fun, especially since 45 is, you know, generally subsonic. So that's gonna be a lot of fun to be throwing some slugs with how quiet this thing is going to be. And it's just gonna look and feel super cool. Anyway, this is basically a video of me kind of nerding out on the Mark 23, but it is just so freaking cool. Yeah, so if you're on the fence, definitely just go ahead and send it, because you're not gonna regret it. It's very fun. It's going to last, it's gonna be reliable. And again, it's a Mark 23, it's a Heckler & Koch firearm, so it has that reliability and name behind it. But of course, if you guys have any questions on the Mark 23, maybe how it compares to other firearms, or maybe how some of the controls work, how they feel, definitely let me know down in the comment section. Again, I haven't put as many rounds as I would like through this thing yet. I'm gonna be adding some more this weekend, actually. But yeah, and I'll throw some clips throughout of me shooting the Mark 23. But yeah, if you have any questions, definitely let me know down in the comment section. But yeah, Mark 23, fantastic pistol. I'm gonna try and do some more gun reviews. Of course, I would like to maybe do some of them kind of out on the range, just, you know, natural lighting and stuff. But at the same time, I can kind of show you certain things, show you some reloads, kind of real time. And then of course, you know, just shoot the thing while we're doing it, because then it'll hype me up as well as I'm doing the review. But if you guys have any questions, or if you want me to review any of the firearms that you've seen like on the Shorts channel, definitely let me know. And yeah, I definitely want to do some more firearm reviews in the future. But that is it for this one. I'll see y'all in the next one. Yeah, I almost didn't do it and it felt weird, so I'm going to do it.